Part 5. Carl Jung. Man and His Symbols. He had in fact arrived at what psychologists would call his complexes. That is, repressed emotional themes that can cause constant psychological disturbances, or even, in many cases, the symptoms of neurosis. This episode opened my eyes to the fact that it was not necessary to use a dream as the point of departure for the process of free association. If one wishes to discover the complexes of a patient, it showed me that one can reach the center directly from any point of the compass. One could begin from Quillian letters. I'm not sure what that says. Medications upon a crystal ball, a prayer wheel, or a modern painting, or even from casual conversation about some quiet, trivial event. The dream was no more and no less useful in this respect than any other possible starting point. Nevertheless, dreams have a particular significance, even though they often arise from an emotional upset in which the habitual complexes are also involved. The habitual complexes are tender spots of the psyche, which react most quickly to an external stimulus or disturbance. That is why free association can lead one from any dream to the critical secret thoughts. At this point, however, it occurs to me that if I was right so far, it might reasonably follow the dreams have some special and more significant function of their own. Very often dreams have a definite, evidently purposeful structure, indicating an underlying idea or intention, though as a rule the latter is not immediately comprehensible. I therefore began to consider whether one should pay more attention to the actual form and content of a dream, rather than allowing the free association to lead one off through a train of ideas to complexes that could as easily be reached by other means. This new thought was a turning point in the development of my psychology. I meant that I gradually gave up following associations that led far away from the text of a dream. I chose to concentrate rather on the association to the dream itself, believing that the latter expressed something specific that the unconscious was trying to say. The change in my attitude towards dreams involved a change of method. The new technique was one that could take account of all the various wider aspects of a dream. A story told by the conscious mind has a beginning, a development, and an end. But the same is not true of a dream. Its dimensions in time and space are quite different. To understand it, you must examine it from every aspect. Just as you may take an unknown object in your hand and turn it over and over until you are familiar with every detail in its shape. Perhaps I have now said enough to show how I came increasingly to disagree with free association as Freud first employed it. I wanted to keep as close as possible to the dream itself, and to exclude all the irrelevant ideas and associations that it might evoke. True, these could lead one toward complexes of a patient, but I had more far-reaching purposes in mind than the discovery of complexes that cause neurotic disturbances. There are many other means by which these can be identified. The psychologist, for instance, can get all the hints he needs by using word association tests, by asking the patient what he associates to a given set of words, and by studying his responses. But to know and understand the psychic life process of an individual's whole personality, it is important to realize that his dreams and their symbolic images have a much more important role to play. Almost everyone knows, for example, that there is an enormous variety of images by which the sexual act can be symbolized. For one may say, represented in a form of allegory. Each of these images can lead, by a process of association, to the idea of sexual intercourse and the specific complexes that any individual may have about his own sexual attitudes. But one could just as well unearth such complexes by daydreaming on a set of indecipherable Russian letters. I was thus led to the assumption that a dream can contain some message other than sexual allegory, and that it does so for definite reasons to illustrate this point. A man may dream of inserting a key in a lock, of wielding a heavy stick, or breaking down the door with a battery ram. Each of these can be regarded as a sexual allegory, but the fact that his unconscious, for its own purposes, has chosen one of these specific images, it may be the key, the stick, or the battering ram, is also a major significance. The real task is to understand why the key has been preferred to the stick, or the stick to the ram. And sometimes, this might even lead one to discover that it is not sexual acts at all that are represented, but some quite different psychological point. From this line of reasoning, I concluded that only the material that is clearly and visibly part of a dream should be used in interpreting it. The dream has its own limitations. Its specific form itself tells us what belongs to it and what leads away from it, while free association lures one away from the material in a kind of zigzag line. The method I evolved is more like a circumambulation. Circumambulation, whose center is the dream picture. I work all around the dream picture and disregard every attempt that the dreamer makes to break away from it. Time and time again, in my professional work, I have had to repeat the words, "Let's get back to your dream. What does the dream say?" And that's it for today. Hey, sorry I'm recording it. I'm reading it off a computer now. I had to turn it back into the book back to the library. But okay, that's about it. Thank you for listening.